Good evening, everybody.
Oh.
I'm speaking.
Hello, everybody. So, Karen.
Yeah.
Nice to have you on the screen. Welcome.
Thank you.
I was thinking that while we give a few minutes for everybody to join, because lots of people are registered, perhaps we can show the video clip before I introduce you, because I want to make sure as many people registered are online. Is that okay for you?
Yeah, absolutely fine.
Okay, perfect. Thanks a lot.
So,
so Petya, will you show the video? So we about the transnational access. So could everybody go mute, please? Could please people turn their microphones off, please? Thank you. Petya, could you show the video while we wait for everybody to connect?
Yes.
Great. Thanks a lot.
The GSI Helmholtz Zentrum für Schwerionenforschung is one of the largest nuclear physics accelerators in Europe.
Now has been conceived as a clinical facility for supplying hydrotherapy to patients recruited from all over the country.
The Heidelberg Ion Beam Therapy Facility is a synchrotron-based facility for cancer therapy. So we treat tumors that are very insensitive to radiation.
The Marburg Ion Therapy Center, MET, is one of only two facilities in Germany where protons and all the carbon ions are provided for the treatment of patients.
It's a clinical facility providing patient treatment and also research opportunities located about 50 kilometers south of Vienna. And we can offer both carbon ions and proton beam radiotherapy.
GSI is a research center, so we are completely committed to research, and it's both basic research, like in nuclear physics, and applied research. Within the applied research, of course, the biomedical applications in cancer therapy play a very important role.
Our mission is mainly addressed to clinical irradiation, but in addition, we also provide great opportunities to perform research in various sectors for scientific and industrial activities ranging from radiation biophysics, radiobiology, space research, and detector development.
The mission of the Towson is twofold. On the one hand, we want to deliver state-of-the-art particle therapy to patients, so it's a clinical mission. And on the other hand, we want to perform research strictly related to this, so improve the radiobiological and technical properties to have a better tool for the future patients. We are a standalone facility, but integrated in a network of hospitals and universities that support us.
Our mission is twofold. On the one hand side, we want to treat a very large amount of patients, predominantly in clinical trials, and we have treated 7,000 patients since 2009 when we started the clinical operation. But as we are in a research environment, everything is constantly accompanied by studies, research, basic research, modeling, performed graphical processing units, very fast Monte Carlo calculations, in order to study the underlying effects from the molecular biology range down to nuclear reaction cross sections when the particle traverse the patient, up to very complex molecular biology based analysis of gene up and down regulation, depending on the particle type you use to produce the dose, always aiming at improving the therapy protocols, finally being used in clinical trials.
Our goal is not only to make this therapy for all our patients available, but we want to develop it further. To this end, all patients are included in prospective registry studies. In addition, a variety of clinical studies are being conducted here at the MIT, and the patient inclusion can be offered to all our patients. The objectives of our research is to improve particle therapy. In particular, we are focusing now on the combination of
Petia should unmute, please.
The room. The beam distribution in the now experimental room is performed with the same scanning active system that is used in the 3 treatment rooms. In order to make the best use of the available space in the experimental room, the beam line inside has been conceived as assembled in several configurations.
Our clinical activities has mainly 2 objectives. The first one is to prove in a way that is convincing for all of the world that the data reported so far are true. So produce hard evidence that will result in the construction of many more carbon ion facilities in the future.
More than 3,400 patients have been treated at CNAO in the past 10 years, corresponding to 15,000 hours of beam time of the synchrotron on for clinical use only. The pathologies that we can treat at now are tumors of the brain, skull base, and spinal cord.
The second one is exploring new ways to use carbon ion. So the untapped potential of this wonderful modality. And we believe that the 3 main directions in which we want to develop are hypoxia, LET optimization, and integration with immunomodulating drugs.
The most innovative physics research project is already mentioned 3D range modulator. The advantage of these modulators is if we put these modulators into the beam during the treatment of the patients, we are able to reduce treatment times from several minutes down to several seconds. And that's a big advantage for the patient.
And what you see behind me is the worldwide first realization of a rotational beam line for ion beams, because that allows entering the patient out of any angle, which is what photon therapy, the standard therapy modality, has to do anyhow. We do it only for those patients that have very difficult conditions for their tumor, and the sparing of organs at risk, tissue close to the tumor has to be spared at a maximum extent. That's why we built this very large gantry.
2015, since the reopening of the Marburg Particle Beam Center, we treated around 1,500 patients. In particular, tumors that are reported to be radio-resistant or which are located in the vicinity of critical organs at risk are most suitable for particle beam therapy, here in our case, a proton or carbon ion therapy.
Another very important topic are the moving targets. For example, we are very precise with our pencil beam scanning, but if the tumor is moving, how do we track the movement? How do we follow the tumor? So treating lung tumors, for example, with the pencil beam scanning is difficult because this tumor can be moving up to 10 centimeters in width.
Over the course of 10 years, more than 2,500 hours of beam time have been devoted to research activities for external research groups coming to our facility from all over the world.
Radiobiological research started in 2019, and since then several research groups applied to the beam time and carried out experiments at MIT.
Thanks to its synchrotron, now is providing a transnational access for both clinical and research activities.
This means that all the facilities in HITRI offer beam time to external users. Users coming from different countries. So we are in Germany, we can offer hours to users coming from France, from Italy, from any other country in Europe. This is the basis of science. You know, we want to be open. We want people to come here and use our infrastructure, and we want to exchange our experience and our results.
Great, yeah. Can I share now, please?
Yes.
So now it's time to welcome our speaker for the second seminar of the HITRIplus project. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So it's my pleasure to introduce Professor Karen Kirkby. Actually, we met in 2006, and in the last 15 years, a huge amount of progress has taken place in particle therapy. There's a lot of interest, a lot of new technologies, lots of facilities. And Karen is really the lead research between Christie's in Manchester, both in particle beam therapy as well as FLASH. And she's the coordinator for the INSPIRE project. And she's going to tell us about INSPIRE. And the reason why I wanted to show you the video before Karen gives her talk about the status of INSPIRE, where they are and what's happened, is because INSPIRE, just like HITRIplus, is an infrastructure project. And one of the key features of these projects are having access to beam time. So we wanted to just show you the video that there is a possibility of having beam time in HITRIplus, and we will give you more information later. But now it's really my pleasure to welcome Karen. So Karen, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for coming to join us. Thanks a lot.
I will just share my presentation, which I have put here. It helps if I go to the start of it. So hopefully, I'm hoping, can you see two slides or can you see one slide? I just need
two.
Right, I'll just swap the displays so we only see, you should just see one.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
That's brilliant. So thank you so much for this invitation to talk to you about INSPIRE. I think wonderful video. I have to congratulate you on that. It's absolutely wonderful. So thank you for sharing that, and lots of other thank yous. So first of all, thank you so much for this opportunity to speak and to talk to this group of people. Secondly, I've got to thank my colleagues in the INSPIRE project, because a lot of the slides I'll be showing you come from them. I've got to also thank our International Advisory Committee, our Ethics Committee, and our User Selection Panel, who do a lot of hard work for me, the EU for funding INSPIRE, and our project officer and reviewers. And I have two wonderful project managers, Helena and Rebecca, who I couldn't manage without. And a lot of what you're going to be seeing is thanks to them. So that's my thank yous. Also very keen on collaboration. So we are working with the AIRI network, which is an analytical research infrastructure of infrastructures. We also work very closely with one of the MPIR projects, UHD Pulse, but I think one of the ways of getting far more out of these European projects is very much working together, collaborating together, and that's why it's such a particular delight to be able to talk to you today. So what I'm going to talk to you about is I'm going to tell you a little bit about the INSPIRE project. I'm going to show you a little bit about transnational access and networking activities, and a bit about the future. With the networking activities and the transnational access, I've tried to build in some of the joint research activities because they feed very much into those. So a little bit about what INSPIRE is. So as HITRIplus, it's a starting infrastructure. It's actually coordinated by Manchester, and in Manchester we have both the Christie NHS Foundation Trust and the University of Manchester, and we work hand in hand on this project and others. We started by looking to integrate proton research across Europe, very much by looking at the clinical proton facilities which had research rooms, and then our good friend Marco Durante moved from Italy to GSI, so we ended up including some heavier ions. And we also have colleagues in the Netherlands who have a lower energy cyclotron, which is can also produce heavier ions. But most of the facilities and most of the research in INSPIRE is protons. We've got 17 partners. Like HITRIplus, we've got networking, transnational access and joint research activities. 11 of our partners are TNA providers. We started off with 12, but one of them is still being built in Namur, so they haven't been able to provide TNA. And that means we've got 12 proton therapy centres which act as national hubs. So we don't have all the proton therapy centres in Europe, and some, there are some ones that have started since Inspire started. We also have very good involvement from Varian and IBA, and we've got a website which is protonsinspire.eu, and there's a lot more there. And at that link, if you want to find out more about Inspire, there's quite a lot on the website for you to look at. As I said earlier, these are our work packages, but when I was coming to put this talk together, I thought if I went through each work package, it could be a bit boring. So I'm hoping the talk's a bit more enjoyable. And I've used a format that we used with our project officer and reviewer for our second review stage. So what's our transnational access about? It's access to the research rooms in proton therapy clinical facilities. And that means we offer effectively clinical beams in a research environment. Some of these research rooms offer access to a proton beam gantry. Others have fixed beam lines, some have a scanning nozzle, some don't. So there's quite a range of different facilities available in different centres. And some of these actually became operational during Inspire. The centre in Manchester started treating patients in 2018, but we've only started doing transnational access in the past year, and we were late. We were delayed significantly due to COVID-19, as were a number of our partners. And as I said earlier, we do have access to ions through GSI and KBI CART, sometimes called RUG. And you apply for transnational access through the website. You fill out a form. It's evaluated by a user selection panel, which is independent of the partners of Inspire. They rate it. We normally send it to 3. We feedback comments, and if it's above a threshold, then it's funded. If it's below a threshold, we take the reviewer comments, and if necessary, we work with the participants. And the centre that is offering the beam time is the one that works most closely with the, once the project's been granted, to make sure that everything is in place for that project. But there's been a partnership all the way through. So in terms of our transnational access capabilities, there's effectively, this is just a snapshot. A lot of the work that comes through is radiobiology, and that's particularly cells in 2D and 3D. Although GSI has a project, I think, coming through on plants. We've done some work on proton CT, detector design and testing. We can obviously test for electronics as well. We've taken part in a number of pan-European studies, both for metrology and phantom intercomparison. We work on range verification, imaging, motion management, and we're also very involved in some of the new technologies that are coming along, such as flash and spatially fractionated radiotherapy. So those are the key areas that we've been working on. If you look on the right-hand side, you can see our predicted beam hours. You can also see another line where we've found that the number of hours requested and that has gone through for funding is above the number of used hours. But you can also see the little grey dot, which shows that the number of hours we've actually used at the moment is lower, because most of our facilities in March last year were not able to be open for transnational access, and we're now back online and we're picking up the beam hours quickly. There is a paper that was led by one of my postdocs, but it was at Marco's idea. And so there is a paper, Mapping the Future of Particle Radiobiology in Europe, which details, particularly for radiobiology, what goes on within Inspire. And one of the things we've been doing with transnational access is expanding our capabilities through joint research activities. And we've got quite a big activity going on hypoxia. So if you look on the right, this is in Manchester, and this is a project that we've developed, a Hypoxia Cabinet with Don Whitley Scientific, with a robotic arm in it that's been developed by Thermo, and we've brought the two together so that we can actually irradiate a number of samples. And this was because we get a limited amount of beam time in the middle of the night in Manchester, and the feeling was very much that we wanted to make the most of it. So we load up the samples into what we call a hotel, and then the robotic arm can pick them off their sample, off their places, hold them up to the beam, irradiate them. It'll do it again in a minute. So it'll go and collect a sample now. And then the sample is horizontal. It flips it in front of the beam. This is actually an experiment taking place, irradiates it and then puts it back. If we can also do this with 96 well plates. And if you look on the top, there is a versa, which means that we can fix samples at different time points if we wish to. And we can also put samples on the other side of the hotel and switch them around halfway through the experiment. So that's one of the things with hypoxia. In GSI, they've done something in some ways much more clever, which is a compact hypoxia chamber. And they're also developing hypoxia chambers where you can change the degree of hypoxia across the chamber. So in Manchester, we can go from 0.1% oxygen all the way up to the Moxit conditions. But a different system has been developed in GSI, and they're all very useful for looking at experiments under hypoxia. Across the consortium, we've also developed a flash capability. So all the partners in INSPIRE have the capability to do flash. Some of them have already run flash beams, and those that haven't, because they're linked to one of the two suppliers, we know that their equipment is capable of doing it. So as I say, they can all do flash capability. We've developed some Xeromorphic Phantoms, known to their friends as plastic mice. And this is so that we can do, we can look at animal dosimetry, and we can put different dosimeters in. These are available either to 3D print if you've got your own 3D printer, or we can actually print the phantom that people want and send it to them. So it's one of our standards. We've also, our colleagues at Namur have developed an animal irradiation platform that will fit on the end of a gantry, and that's subject to a patent, as is the compact hypoxia chamber that GSI are developing. We've developed a range of software and a range of databases that are all available on the INSPIRE website. And our colleagues at IFJ Pan in Krakow have developed nano peanuts, which is another patent that's now been granted for drug delivery. So if we have a look at some of the networking, and I wanted to draw attention to three projects that have come under our work package 2 QA and standards, but have also come out of our joint research activities. So one's on radiobiology, and it's led by Olga at GSI. Another is on dosimetry and is led by Marie Dabakova at in the Czech Republic, and another is on RBE and LET, and it's led by Armin Lur at Dresden. Although I should say, I think Armin has subsequently moved, and I've just forgotten where he's moved to. Apologies, Armin. I also wanted to show you a little bit of the work we've been doing on public engagement and outreach, and something on innovation and sustainability through a successful project with Varian. So this is the Radiobiology Project, and if you plot RBE against LET, and I'm talking to a group of people who know all about this, so we all know that different experiments carried out in different labs get different results, even if they're on the same cell line. And so at GSI, they came up with this wonderful phantom, which is designed to do 2 different types of spread out Bragg peak, one at 6 Gray and one at 8 Gray, and to put samples in at different depths along those spread out Bragg peaks, and effectively to run this at 9 different institutes using the same cell line that was bought from the same supplier with the same geometry. And I'll go to the next slide. So this is our research room in Manchester. beamline here. Let me show you. Beamline here, scanning nozzle, and this is the phantom here, and we've got a water tank after it. This is Nick setting it all up, and you can see these are the plates at different depths. And we did the simulations. This is the 8 gray, sorry, this is the 6 gray, and this is the 8 gray Bragg peaks. And the centres were also designed these Bragg peaks themselves. And this is our dosimetry measurements to make sure that we were doing, we had the right doses for the biology. And this is our first set of results of this spread out Bragg peak, and this is the clonogenic assay. Nick was rather upset about this point because we know that the survival, we know that at the distal end of the Bragg peak, we would expect the survival fraction to go down. And we went back and looked at our calculations and our water phantom, and we corrected this now. And the next time we did this, we did get a decrease in survival fraction. So that's, you know, that's coming together, and it's only a few millimeters, but it shows how sensitive this technique is. So that's one of our intercomparison studies. The next one is the one on RBE and LET. And as I showed you earlier, RBE varies with LET. And we wanted to compare and harmonize the way in which we all calculated LET. It involved 9 INSPIRE partners. They each used their center treatment planning system and their center beam model. And they also did the experiments with a constant and then a variable RBE. We started with a water phantom, and then we looked at some set patient cases. And this says what I've just said there with the increased RBE at the distal end of the Bragg peak. And we wanted, often that when you look at different centers, there's center-specific RBE modeling, there's the LET calculation, and there's variable RBE modeling, and it impacts on the quality of patient treatment and the intercomparability of clinical data. So we wanted to be able to compare between sites. So the aim was going towards variable RBE modeling in the clinical proton therapy. It was harmonizing the LET definition and the calculations across Europe, and comparing and harmonizing clinical RBE modeling across Europe. And here are our partners. And this is just a little bit of information about the calculation algorithm, the simulation environment, and we used a number of different LET scoring methods. So we use various algorithms, simulation tools, treatment planning software, and LET scoring, so that we could look for a common European framework for the simulation of the biological effect of proton therapy. And these are our results into the water phantom. And we used, as you can see here, we used LET averaging techniques. We used primary protons, dose protons plus neutrons plus alpha. We use dose with an atomic charge of 1. We use dose all protons and track all protons. And these are the results that came out in the water phantom. And then we went on and applied that. And this shows a base of skull case from each center with center-specific variable relative biological effectiveness models. So we've used the McNamara model with an alpha-beta ratio of 2 gray. We've used the Heidelberg model with an alpha-beta of 10 gray in the clinical target volume and 3 gray elsewhere. And we've used the McMahon model without alpha-beta dependency. The dose was 57 gray, and you can see everything. And you can see the different RBE models and how the treatment differs between them. And this is going to be presented at ESTRO later this month. So we've also carried out a dosimetry audit, and this was done with 7 INSPIRE partners and the Eurodose working group. And this Maria Davakova and colleagues developed a special assembly for positioning 3 different types of detectors in a water phantom. It was initially designed so it would fit, so that it was done using the beam delivered from a gantry, but we've now developed it so that it can be done either on a gantry or in front of a horizontal beam line. And this is the experiment taking place in Manchester. So that's our 3 of our intercomparison experiments. I should also say that we have news and our newsletters, and it would be very happy to make sure that we include HITRIplus on that, on our mailing list, or we can tell you when our newsletters are coming out or something like that. And on the website, we keep up to date with events that are going on. And this is just a quick screenshot of that. We've been doing quite a lot about public engagement in outreach. Some of it did stop due to COVID, but our colleagues at IFJ PAN in Krakow continued, and actually their participation for their Open Nights programme earlier this year attracted over 1,000 participants. And this is part of their video that they shot, which is in Polish, which talks about their centre, but also their part in the Inspire project. And we've also developed a knowledge hub and some fact sheets in different languages. In the UK, we've developed them with the Brains Trust for proton therapy patients, but we have equivalents in Germany, Sweden, France, and the website is developing the number of patient information leaflets that it has available in the relevant language and talking about proton therapy in their particular country. So we have our work package 5 is in the networking section and is dedicated to innovation and sustainability. And I wanted to give an example of a project that came out of one of our joint research activities in work package 10. And this was to modify the ionization chamber used on the nozzle of the variant for the variant centers. This is the ionization chamber that fits on the end of the nozzle. So this is it. I'll just show you in situ. So this is it here. This is the actual ionization chamber. For FLASH, when it measures the dose, it underreports due to the fast recombination time. And we've developed a new version of this ionization chamber through work package 10. And this is being used in the world's first FLASH proton trial, FAST-01 on bone mets in Cincinnati. Varian have developed a commercial product for research rooms, which is called Flex, which is now available on the market. And they've also developed a clinical prototype, which is being currently tested at Aarhus, which is another partner in Inspire. They've also been working with partners in UHD Pulse on flash dosimetry equipment, and with GSI on printed range modulators for the delivery of flash Bragg peaks. And this was an idea that started around technology levels 1 and 2, and through Inspire has gone all the way up to the higher technology readiness levels. So we're very pleased with this project, and I think it shows how innovation can happen within a project and be accelerated. We've also done some work in our innovation gateway with a company called Avacam, who've developed a new detector. Again, this is with UHD Pulse, and we've used the Dresden beamline and running flash beams at Dresden to test this device, and that's going back for another set of measurements very shortly. Another thing that's come out of research that's ended up in our innovation gateway has been a piece of work between the University of Groningen, UMCG, and IBA. And Groningen has developed what's known as the Dutch model for deciding which patients might benefit most from proton therapy. And to do this, they dose plan with photons and protons, look at the delta dose profile between them, and then look at NTCP models and come up with a delta NTCP, and feed that into the National Indication Protocol. And if it's below a certain value, then the patients get photons. And if it's above a certain value of delta NTCP, they get protons. But one of the issues with this is it works beautifully for head and neck cancers for which it was developed, but it's having the NTCP models available so that it can be used on other sites. And so what's been done within Inspire is they've used research in our work package 8 to develop an NTCP database, and this now is available open source and contains NTCP models for a whole range of sites, with the idea that the Dutch model of Delta NTCP can now be used across a range of sites. So other things that have happened in Inspire and our networking, many of you will have been at PTCOG in June 2019, which seems a long time ago now, at a time when we could actually meet face to face. And you know, you look at how close the people were here. Jürgen de Vos is here giving his prize-winning talk, and that was organised that had Inspire contributed to that, and it was the largest conference in particle therapy ever held, with over 1,350 delegates. I wanted to give a quick plug for FRPT. So this is a conference, Flash Radiotherapy and Particle Therapy. This is a conference that we put together, which is going to hopefully be held face-to-face in Vienna, although it will have a virtual presence in December 2021. Our colleagues from MedAustron are also very involved in that, because there will be a virtual tour of the MedAustron facility. We'd love to involve HITRIplus very much in, as the conference takes place. We've got a very, very exciting program, and it's not too late to submit an abstract, because although we had a lot of abstracts the first time round, we've got a late breaking abstract section. So there is still opportunities to put in an abstract. Most of the conference this time is on Flash, but there are opportunities to put in abstracts on particle therapy, and it would be lovely to hear about HITRIplus there. So what's in the future? Well, I think in the future we would look for Inspire to increase its capacity for TNA, to go outside just beam time, to move closer to the clinic, work more closely with industry, but look at personalising treatment. We work very closely with the clinical teams on outcomes, and so there's the clinical outcomes and the EPROMs. We also have some projects ongoing that aren't part of Inspire at the moment on wearables, and that gives us opportunities for real-time monitoring with patients. We're also doing some work on involving patients in the decision making. So we've got biologically augmented treatment planning, but the idea of being able to say to a patient what's most important for them and adapt the treatment planning around them. And that's done very much with, we're working with our head and neck clinicians on that. It's also digital biomarkers, and we're learning a lot from the particle physics and astronomy communities on how we can interrogate the range of clinical outcomes, EPROMs and wearables data that we've got access to. And it's also integrating with imaging. You know, we've talked about hypoxia, but with techniques such as OE-MRI, we have the opportunity to start putting some of the imaging data into our studies. I think it's also starting to look at the next generation of clinical trials. We have pediatric and rare tumours, so for those a pan-European approach is needed. But I think across Europe, we want to look for a pan-European approach. The UK, for example, referred patients overseas for protons before we got our own proton centres, and we're interested in looking at whether there is the same opportunity for heavier ions, and to do that with other European sites. And then there's health research and who benefits most from proton therapy, how are they chosen, looking at health inequalities and also the impact of COVID. And you will have all seen this cancer mission recommendations. I haven't screenshotted the whole thing, but I think there's an opportunity, particularly for Inspire and HITRIplus, to work together on these cancer mission recommendations and look at how we can address some of those calls. So with that, I would like to thank you all very much for listening. And I did want to just show you something from my group. The symbol for Manchester is the worker bee. And when we were getting our scan-in sorted out, after we'd done our regular beam spot patterns, the team decided they wanted to show how clever they were. So if I show you here, and this is slightly sped up, this is on our links. But you can see they have scanned in the pattern of the Manchester worker bee. And this was for some of our colleagues and our dean to show what we were doing in the proton research room. One of my clinical colleagues said we don't get many tumours in the shape of bees, which is absolutely true. But once again, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for inviting me. I think I'm now open for questions.
Thank you, Karen. Really appreciate you sharing with us what Inspire and you are all doing and the possibilities of collaborating even further, particularly with HITRIplus. So before we take questions, of course, we have to have a Zoom photo and you have a chance to get a quick drink of water maybe. So could we please turn your cameras on so we could take a Zoom shot? Please, everybody who wants to be in the photo.
Shall I stop sharing?
Yes, please.
Yes, please. Yes. Sorry, Karen.
I just realized that it was not right. You should be. I've stopped sharing now.
Perfect. So anybody who wants to be in the photo, please turn your cameras on and then get ready to ask questions from Karen. Petya, tell me when you're done, okay?
Okay. Just waiting. Okay, smile. Okay, a couple more. Okay.
Okay, thanks a lot. So thank you, Karen, again. So questions for Karen, please. Either on chat or you can put your hand up and we'll take the questions. Mimosa, do you want to actually ask your question live? Mimosa?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Hi, Karen. This was a really nice talk, amazing talk, actually. The last slide that you showed was the table of criteria for patient selection.
This was the...
And I barely could read something, but I'm very interested in it. So
I'm very happy to send you the link. It should be, it's now available open access, open source, but it should be on the Inspire, I think it's on the Inspire website, but I'm very happy to send you a direct link if that would help.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much. I will write down the address, my address, or maybe you can send it to Manjit and she can send it to me.
No, thanks, Karen, but we are going to load Karen's slides afterwards and hopefully she will share the link on there as well.
I'll share the link with you and I'll make sure it works as well, because there's always that fear of saying, yes, of course the link is there, and you go and click on it and it doesn't work, because it worked last time. So I'm very happy to share that.
Okay, so Karen, there's a question from Sad asking about the Inspire training. Sad, do you want to ask or shall I just read the question out?
I can see it there.
Oh, sorry, please. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, so yes, we do. We do have discipline hops, and we have accepted people. At the moment, we can take people virtually, but we can't. Most of the centres can't accept people physically. visiting centres simply because of COVID and things like that. But we're starting to think about how we could actually have some virtual visits. So, you know, that's where we are at the moment. It was, you know, there are discipline hops. We have had some of them going on. We want to make them happen again. But that's, you know, one of our problems at the moment is that we're also, the clinical centres, some of those actually have additional ones, but oh, I've had a question about what about in a year's time? What we do is we advertise them when we've got them. So I've been saying to people, keep an eye on the website as soon as we have some, and you know, I can make sure, for example, we tell HITRIplus when we have when we start having those available. We really want to open them up as soon as we possibly can, but I think most of our centres are having problems taking people outside the centre in for discipline hops. So we're just saving those at the moment. And we've asked the EU if we can extend the project for at least for 9 months, just so that we can, you know, we're hoping that hopefully later on this year we might be able to start opening up a bit, but I think it's so uncertain. But we're also looking at virtual ones.
Yeah, no, I think we have to think of some strategies. If you come up with a good one, please share with us as well.
Well, I'm going to say the same to you. You know, I think it's this sort of how do you work in COVID? And I think this time last year, I think we'd all hoped that, you know, well, I'm still sat at home, largely because my office is full of PPE equipment at the moment.
So when does Inspire finish, even with the 9-month extension?
With the 9-month extension, it'll finish towards the end of next year.
Okay, so there's quite some time. Okay.
Yes, there's still some time. Like I don't know whether Andreas is on the call. He said he might join us, and I have at the moment Andreas hasn't approved that extension, so it is subject to agreement from the EU.
Okay.
So that's where we are at the moment.
I think people are understanding because they realize that it's been a really challenging time, particularly for, you know, training and hands-on training. Yeah. How do you do that in remote times? Other questions?
We did do we had a training course. So we were going to do a course for all the Inspire fellows who we'd recruited. And of course, COVID then struck just as we were due to do it at our midterm review, which was going to happen in March last year, end of March, just after everyone had locked down for COVID. And we ended up doing that online, and that worked really well. I think it would have been nicer to do it face to face, but we did have that experience of working in the virtual world there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So don't see